Alright, so the new Specialized Diverge is out for 2021, and this is my first impressions of the new Specialized Diverge. But a disclaimer, I do not have the bike on me. I was not invited to Girona, Spain to ride the bike. Wish I was, would have been really cool. But that also means you're getting exactly what I think of the bike. But what I think of the bike is, man, I like the Diverge. I'm gonna say that right away. I rode the 2019 version of the Diverge. I came in looking at a certain bike and I was shown the Diverge and I thought the Future Shock technology was really cool. And yeah, I really liked it, and I rode over some curves on grass, and I liked the suspension system and like how plush the bike felt. It was really cool. I felt like I could ride the bike anywhere, which is what I really liked about the Diverge. And now the new one, it gets a redesign for 2021. And I like it, and I guess I don't like it, or I don't know if I don't like it. So basically, I noticed they're taking a lot more cues from the mountain bike world. So they're trying to transition it less from a road side and move it more toward a mountain bike side, which I think is cool. And maybe it's why I personally don't like it as much, because I'm like mainly a roadie and I like being able to go on the road. But what I liked about the Diverge was what you could do is you could have it sort of on the road, and then you could go off-road. You could kind of like go anywhere, and I thought that was such a cool concept. And even at my local bike shop, one of the guys is like, yeah, like 90% of the Diverge's life is going to be on the road. But I don't know if you can say that for everybody, because a lot of people would take it off-road, and I really want to get into the geometry of the bike and explain how it's different from the last one right now. Now, looking at the main Diverge, not exactly the Diverge Evo, we're going to be looking at the main Diverge first. What that bike has is it has like the entire wheelbase, right, has been increased by 31 millimeters, because it's been increased from 1,011 millimeters to 1,042 millimeters. And what they were able to do with this bike to keep the handling on par was what they did was the chainstays are still 425 millimeters, while there's still a 15 millimeter piece of carbon between the chain rings, right? So if you look at it, there's going to be this really skinny piece of carbon fiber between the chain ring and one of the chainstays. And what it does is it doesn't like mess up the geometry, and it leaves enough room for everything that you might need in there while still making it a really good handling bike. Now what the frame really does, it was increased by 25 millimeters, so it's similar to the Epic hardtail, not the Epic full. I personally haven't really heard good things about the most previous Epic full suspension mountain bike, but they call it a progressive geometry, which is closer to the Epic hardtail. So like I'm seeing a pattern that they're taking less sort of similarities from the Roubaix and moving it more toward the Epic, which is really cool. It's what a gravel bike is really supposed to be. It's supposed to be a good balance between a hardtail and between an endurance geometry road bike. So I'm really happy to see that. And the ultimate getaway vehicle, that was a really cool advertisement with Peter Sagan going through the garage. Probably scratched the frame though, that kind of hurt me to watch that. But I thought that was cool because I guess the whole idea is the bike can go anywhere and it's a fast bike, and I mean, who doesn't love a fast bike? Fast bikes are great. That was the S-Works model. So that first color, I want to talk a bit about the colors with the S-Works. That one was, I mean, it's kind of cool looking because Specialized, you know, they're in California and they want to have that whole Ewok, you know, sort of influence, you know, riding bikes through the woods and having the earthy, like earth tone colors. I think that's really cool. Ewoks like earth tones. But then there's also this really kind of cool looking frame with a bit of purple, and there's another S-Works frame, and I'm sure they're going to have more colors. So I really can't wait to see those. But let's talk a little bit about the S-Works model for a second. So it has the X-Fusion dropper post and the Easton handlebars, and it has the SRAM Eagle Axis 1x drivetrain with 42 teeth in the front, and then You have a 1050 cassette in the rear, which some people think is too small, but I really think it depends on where you're riding. Like, you know, if you're in the Rockies or something, I mean, yeah, maybe it'll be too small, but you know, if you're in, I don't know, the White Mountains or the Green Mountains, I mean, maybe it'll still be too small, but I mean, it depends what type of mountains you're going up. Do you live out west? Do you live in, like, what part of Australia do you live in? What part of Thailand do you live in where people bike? It really does depend for you. I'd honestly try it out first and before you decide to switch anything out, because it is a good thing to have good cadence, or else you have the cellular metabolites that build up, and you don't want that. You don't want to be walking a bike up a hill. But yeah, I suspect that's going to be fine for a lot of people, you know, especially, you know, if you're lean like me and eat vegan. You can eat mostly carbs or whatever. I mean, I'm not super strict about it. I do notice carbs give me better bicycle performance, or like if I'm doing push-ups or whatever, but it really does depend. So yeah, I mean, if you're lean, like, it'll probably be fine. If you weigh a little bit more, I mean, maybe you should try and get maybe a 38 chainring in the front. I'm sure you can do that. But you know, I noticed the SRAM, like a lot of mountain bike stuff is SRAM, and I don't know how I feel about SRAM. Like, you know, I really like Shimano. Like, I don't like the look of SRAM's shift levers, but that's just kind of my personal preference. I'm just kind of more of a Shimano mechanical fan. I'm not huge on the electronic stuff. I want stuff that, you know, will last a long time, and you know, if something goes wrong, you don't have to worry too much about fixing it. So yeah, it really does depend. Another thing I want to talk about is the bottom bracket. Now, I should have said this when I was talking about the geometry, but the bottom bracket has been raised by 5 millimeters, which I think is pretty good on a gravel bike, because you want to have a lot of clearance and you don't really want to bottom out on anything and like damage your frame. So I think it's good that they're raising up the bottom bracket a bit. But one of the coolest features is they're now putting in threaded bottom bracket, which I didn't even know, but being a mechanic and working on more bikes, I've understood that a threaded bottom bracket means you just kind of screw it in, instead of you know, people like the ease of assembly of you know, a BB sort of press fit. You just kind of put it in, but I think a threaded's way better. It's kind of like the new Trek Demane, which I really like. I really love that bike, and I'm really happy they had threaded on that bike as well. And on the bottom bracket, if you look there, there's a lot of plastic to protect the paint from rocks that may kick up, which I think is really good. You don't want to scratch a brand new paint job on your S-Works bike. It's maybe worth putting some frame tape on as well. So yeah, it's like, considering how thin the carbon layup can be, especially on a bike that light and that high end, I think that's a really good thing to do. And another thing is the SWAT storage, which if you guys have watched any of my videos, you know I love that sort of thing. Like on that Trek Demane, they have a little internal storage compartment. You could fit your air canisters and your tire levers. And it's really good to have that stuff with you, because you never know what could happen on the road, and you could get a flat tire and you don't want to be stuck 50 miles from your house or whatever. So it's really, really good to have that. So the SWAT internal storage is actually for storage, water, air, and tools, as you can see here. And you have the SWAT jacket. So Specialized makes a jacket that they think will fit really well in there. So they kind of one-ups Trek a bit by having the little compartment where you can put your stuff on the bottom, and then on top, you know, having room for a jacket still. But I'm sure you don't have to buy their jacket. You can get another ones, but their jacket does look pretty cool. I mean, come on. I really like that. And we can also talk about the Future Shock 2.0, which comes on the comp model, and well, the carbon comp, and the expert, and the pro, and the S-Works. So the Future Shock 2.0, you have a dial, you can turn it on and off, and you saw it in a Roubaix. But I think a lot of the reviews out there are making a little bit misleading. Is the Diverge always had Future Shock? They just didn't have the Future Shock 2.0. I think it was the 1.5. And the bike that I rode was 2019 Diverge Comp. I really liked it. I really liked the Future Shock on that bike, and I think it's really cool that we get to see it again. And I think the idea of locking it out, that's kind of cool, how you can choose whichever one you want to do. You know, it might be a little bit overwhelming if you're like sweaty and out of breath. You might not even want to think about that. I'm just saying, like, you know, when you're on the trail, like, you kind of think of that sort of thing. You don't really want to be concerned with fine adjustments like that. But about the trims, you know, the carbon fiber, like I said, you don't get the 2.0 on the high-end models. You get the Fact 11R carbon on the S-Works, and then you get the Fact 9R on the Expert Pro and the comp models. And on the Sport and Base, you get the Fact 8R carbon fiber. And on all the aluminum models, you get the E5, kind of like the Specialized LS. I guess it's LA. I thought it was LS this whole time. I don't know, I just think LS sounds better. And you know, you have the Flat Bar Evo, which has more of a steep head tube angle, kind of like how on the regular Diverge bikes, you know, it goes from 72.5 degree angle to a 71.25 degree angle. So it's making it a little bit more this way and decreasing the length of the trail, or at least I'm pretty sure it does that. So it's more aggressive geometry, and you want that for especially some of the really cool mountain bike trails my brother shows me. They're really, really tight, twisty turns, so you want to be able to get around those turns. They're giving you the right geometry for the job, so I think that's a really good thing. And the flat bar, it's not for me, but it's really cool because you're going to get more people on the gravel bike that may not have considered one otherwise. Maybe they just prefer a flat bar. I like the hook over handlebars because you get 3 positions. I really like that. It's very versatile for me, and I like the whole paddle shifter type feeling. But I mean, it's not for everybody, and I understand that. But I think the one that people should look at personally, if they really want to get a gravel bike, keep it for a long time. Obviously, you're on a budget, or you're new. It might be best to get the aluminum because, you know, it's more durable and it's a bit less expensive. But the carbon fiber, I'd get the carbon fiber comp. And, you know, they say carbon just so you don't get mixed up now. I really like that one. The one I rode is a comp. It has the Ultegra. It comes in at $3,800, just like the old one. I remember it costed that much. And instead of the Shimano Ultegra, and I remember it had this 4630, the one I rode, and then they got an 1134 cassette. This one has, well, it's a Shimano GRX, which is kind of like the Ultegra. You get the Ultegra brakes, you got Ultegra rear cassette with an 1134, and you also get a 4831 cassette, which is, it's pretty cool. It's a little bit more versatile than that, the 42, and then the 1150 of the S-Works SRAM Eagle Axis. But yeah, I really like the new Diverge. I think it's cool. It borrows from the road and borrows from mountain bikes. I understand people may be confused, like, hey, why don't you like the Trek Checkpoint? I thought you were a Trek fan. I like Trek for the road stuff. For gravel stuff, I actually really like Specialized. I really enjoyed riding the Diverge, and it was really awesome. And, you know, I don't think you could go wrong with the Checkpoint, but this video is about the Diverge. It's not a comparison video. I really like all the new features. I think it's really good. I understand why roadies, pure roadies like me, might dislike it a bit more than the previous version because it's more toward the mountain bike spectrum. But that's what you want. You want it between the mountain bike and road spectrum. So both people like it, and you can get mountain bikers and roadies on the same thing. I think the drop post is a bit overkill for a gravel bike. I don't know. I'm not a huge MTB guy. That's more my brother's thing. So I understand that, you know, people might think that, we just hate it. I just don't think you need it. I think that other seat post, which is kind of like the one on the new Roubaix, they got rid of the cobble gobbler thing, which I actually thought was pretty comfortable. I think the Roubaix one, the new D-shaped seat post, looks a bit better. But honestly, I think that it's a really, really good bike. I think that there are a lot of things you can fault it with too. You know, like I said, it is pretty expensive. The S-Works is $10,000. I think the one everybody should be looking at if they really want to consider this bike is the carbon comp, because you get all the cool features. You don't get those things like carbon handlebars, which crash the bike and they break. It's just really dangerous. I don't even know how I feel about carbon handlebars. Some people are like, oh, you never used them, but whatever. I just think it's good to have durable stuff. When I'm carbon frame, fine. Carbon handlebars, I'm not sure. But like I said, it's a good bike in some ways, and it's not. Maybe I'll dislike it a bit more than the other one. I really like that sort of light blue color of the old Diverge comp. You know, this one you still get some cool colors too. But like I said, I don't think you can go wrong. It's really good to get out in the woods and be riding around in something that seems like a road bike, and have a road bike or / mountain bike that you feel like you can ride anywhere. I think that's the cool thing about the Diverge, and I think if you pick one up, you'll be pretty happy with it. But try the Diverge comp. That's my recommendation. Or the E5 models are pretty good too. It's cool they have Future Shock. Some of them do. But yeah, let me guys know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for being here. Always remember, stay vegan. Peace, guys. Okay, I forgot to mention, I'm editing this video and I forgot to mention one of my favorite features, which is the 5 water bottle mounts. I think it's so awesome that you can mount 2 water bottles in the fork, one on the top tube, and then 2 in the usual spots in the C tube and the down tube. I think it's really, really good, and it's really important to have water when you're out there in the backcountry, far away from any sort of clean water source. So that's really awesome. It gets 2 thumbs up from me.